the culture of life and the law. We'll explore that and more on today's edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We are your program on the right to life. And what is it? It's a very specific thing. It's not a vague thing. It's not a feeling about abortion or a feeling about babies. It's a very specific legal assertion that was made by America's founders, but is actually made in natural law itself, which America's founders were using. They referred to the laws of nature and of nature's God, and they asserted that our lives are in fact self-evidently a gift from that creator, and that the government now has a duty to ensure these rights. For this government, and for this reason, governments are instituted among men to ensure the endowed rights given by a creator. And so that's an important legal premise. We're now in a situation where the laws of each state can again be restored with the overturn of Roe v. Wade. The Dobbs Decision has empowered the states to again assert their duty to protect the lives within their own jurisdictions. You've got to understand what's going on. I'm going to spend time now on something that some of my friends even say they understood, but they didn't. I wrote a book about Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, and in that book, as I explained and reread and re-examined both Roe and its companion decision, Doe, was very clear that language was used dishonestly and deceitfully to get people to accept the feelings expressed in Roe v. Wade. This use of language must be understood, and first and foremost, you must know, as a normal human being in daily life, that human language can mislead you. Human language can actually confuse and camouflage what is true, rather than express it. So it's critically important that you understand the power of language over your thoughts. Not just how language has impacted the thoughts of those poor people in other countries that have despotic governments that are controlling them. No, you have to understand how language has controlled your thoughts. And so in my book, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, How the Supreme Court Unleashed Medical Killing, available at Amazon and wherever fine books are sold. But in my book, I specifically spend some time both in the preface and in the first chapter. I explain what some people now understand is that Roe versus Wade never made any sense. Roe versus Wade never did what it said it did. And even pro-choice legal experts agree. It was confusing and wandering, and it was incapable of actually being considered constitutional because it just created law off the top of its head. And that's not what a Supreme Court is supposed to do. It's not supposed to just make stuff up and declare that this is a new law. The other aspect is that Doe v. Bolton, which is quietly attached. And when he attached it, Justice Blackmun said, you have to read these two decisions together. They're combined. And of course, in Doe v. Bolton, he gave his very famous exceptions. See, you think, and most Americans may think, well, Roe v. Wade controlled abortion in the first trimester and in the second trimester, and then only in hard cases. But no, because of the exception language, which he wrote explicitly for an abortionist to use whenever they thought they needed to, he used a phrase, life or health, and he defined the health as being psychological, sociological, anything at all related to where that mother may be at emotionally, her age, anything like that, that could be considered health. It's like a personal note that he's writing to the abortionist. By the way, there's no requirement for the abortionist to document that reason. All he needs to do is have that reason in his head, and that was sufficient. He had the authority to do that abortion. It was Blackman who always referred to the abortionist as he and the recipient as she. And so that's another reason feminists didn't like Roe v. Wade. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is that the language you may use about abortion, in fact, may not be correct. So I'm going to go back to basic language grammar for the English language. Now, I taught English for many years. Many of you know that my undergraduate degree was in comparative languages, and I studied POMO and language change and the interrelationships of different variants of languages. That's called linguistics. I studied that in my undergraduate, but I taught English and Latin, so I'm a big language fan. I'm not going to get geeky, though. I want to talk about what you already know, if you will stop and think about it. Here's the question. It's a question from English grammar that you should know if you've been to 5th grade. In an abortion, what is the purpose of the abortion? What is the object of the abortion? Pivotal grammar question. Is the woman the object of the abortion, or is she the indirect object? Very important question. Think about the grammar of the English language and what's really at stake, because the real purpose is to kill that baby. But the only way to get to that baby is going through or by means of that indirect object, which is the mother. So the abortion is actually about killing a baby. If a baby has not been killed, there is no abortion. This is very important, and you're going to find out when we come back why you have to understand that the woman is an indirect object in the action of an abortion. The goal of the abortion is the abortionist is there for one reason: to end the life of that human being in the womb. That's what makes it an abortion. The woman is an indirect object in that ultimate goal. That's plain and simple English grammar. You have to understand it because many pro-lifers don't understand that. When I come back, we're going to explain why you'll get everything wrong if you think this is about women getting abortions. You're not fully comprehending the use of the language, the grammar, the verb, the real object. No, this is about ending the life of a human baby. The woman is the indirect object in that goal. When we come back, we'll explain why you must understand the English language, because you're now free to make laws regarding abortion. And if you don't understand how you were lied to in Roe v. Wade, how the media continues to lie to you, how the pro-abortion movement misrepresents and lies, if you don't understand that, then you'll be debating and fighting on their ground, using their language, using their perspective, and they'll get you every time. You will be walking on ice. We come back, we'll explain why the new laws that you're free to put into place in every state need to be cognizant of what a human abortion really is, what Roe v. Wade actually did, and what we can do now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned. We'll be right back after this.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Film Fest is the creative outreach in Hollywood that's changing Hollywood and the culture. There's many films you've already seen that actually had their start at Life Fest in Hollywood. But more than that, we work with people throughout the industry who want to creatively bring the message of life, creatively impact the culture so that hearts and minds of our fellow citizens understand the depth of what the right to life really is. Be part of Life Fest Film Festival and make a difference.
Go to lifefilmfest.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. I support this show, and I would like to offer you our biggest discounts for listening. So please go to our website, mypillow.com, and put in the promo code at the end of this message to get the biggest discounts. Again, thanks for listening, and God bless.
And that promo code is LIFE. All caps, LIFE, LIFE. So go to MyPillow, put in the promo code LIFE, and you'll get some wonderful discounts because Mike Lindell believes in you and in Life Matters.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back. I want to thank you for those of you tuning in. We're talking about the language used in abortion, and we're talking about what is the purpose and goal of an abortion, and specifically where women come into this. A woman, a pregnant woman, is an indirect object in the goal and purpose of a human abortion. If a child is not killed, it's not an abortion. A human abortion targets a human being that happens to be in the womb. That abortionist must go through the mother some way, shape, or form, whether it's with permission or not. We're going to talk about permission a little bit and what Roe pretends was permission but wasn't. We're going to talk about the fact that killing the baby is the issue. And if you focus on that, you're going to have a better understanding when you're going to have to make laws, because now we get to make laws about abortion. So a woman's an indirect object. I want you to know this, that I know many women that have had abortions, friends that have had abortions, and yes, they regret them. You need to understand, though, that there is not a lot of pleasure when a woman goes to get an abortion. There's a lot of insecurity. More to the point, in Roe v. Wade, certain language is used that's very misleading about this woman and her involvement. And what's stated is that there's a consultation. So Roe v. Wade says that an abortionist can do an abortion free of interference from the state if he's come to that conclusion after a consultation with his patient. But you already know, under the Hippocratic Oath and under medical terms and objective fact, his real patient he's about to kill. The Hippocratic Oath says that you don't kill human beings, and you don't kill human beings even if they're babies in the womb. That's what the Hippocratic Oath asserted. Now, the mother may go along with it, but I want to remind you to look at the language. The word consultation does not give the woman any authority. Please understand what a consultation is. That means we're talking. Let's you and I sit down and we'll consult one another. We'll talk. I don't have to do what you advise me to do. You don't have to do what I advise you to do. There is no agency. That means to say there is no authority actually granted in consulting. That verb consulting or the noun in consultation, that phrase in consultation does not grant authority. Later on, in both Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, Justice Blackmun is very clear that he doesn't want women going out and doing their own abortions. He was explicit about that. They're not to do their own abortions. Sarah Weddington, who argued the case in front of him and submitted the paperwork, specifically asked for that right. Now, I happen to know how Sarah Weddington thought. So how do I know Sarah Weddington? I know her because it's all written down. I've heard the oral arguments. I also understand where she was coming from, because Sarah Weddington was a radical feminist who got those ideas from Marxism. If you've never read Karl Marx, you don't understand what I just said. If you've studied Karl Marx is very clear, and all of his adherents are very clear, that abortion is an essential element for the freedom of society and the advancement of the cultural revolution he wishes to see. That women are the first of all oppressed classes. And if a man can walk away from a pregnancy, but a woman not, then she is going to be hindered by the need to raise that child. And that was suggested in Roe v. Wade, by the way. This was a limiting factor. And Sarah Weddington asked for the right for a woman to choose to do with her body as she wished. She explicitly asked for the right of self-determination in the name of autonomy. And that was specifically prohibited by Roe v. Wade. So I will read here from Roe v. Wade, and I want to remind you about the conclusion you just spent time thinking about, that the woman is an indirect object in the act of an abortion. In an abortionist has one purpose: to kill the human baby. He must use a pregnant woman to do so. As an indirect object, she has no authority. And Justice Blackmun makes that clear in Roe versus Wade. I'm reading from Roe versus Wade at line 153. The appellant, and that was Sarah Weddington, she brought the argument. The appellant and some amici argue that the woman's right is absolute and that she is entitled to terminate her pregnancy at whatever time, in whatever way, and for whatever reason she alone chooses. With this, we do not agree. That's in Roe v. Wade. Women specifically are denied the right to choose to do or have an abortion in any way they want. They are, in fact, without that agency. They are the indirect objects within the abortion question. The object of the abortion is to kill the baby. Now, very quickly, I could spend a lot more time on that. I have in other programs. And by the way, you got to read the book, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe. But you have to pay attention to language. So now what we have is a situation that many people want to ascribe guilt, responsibility, and penalty to the woman. I used to teach high school, and I could tell you on a Monday morning, I knew who had an abortion because they would weep uncontrollably in the back of class. And it wouldn't take long to realize and for them to be forthright that they had an abortion. They didn't really want to have it. They had been talked into it. The guy promised this is the best thing. He was going to go along and help her get the abortion. That point in fact, a woman does know what's going on. According to feminist ideology, though, and according to Marxism, a free woman must be willing to kill her baby to be truly free. That's what gives you liberation. That's freedom, is the death of the child. But in point of fact, when an abortion is done, the abortions that were legalized under Roe v. Wade only authorized an official doctor to make that decision. As we just read, it was not a decision to be made by the woman. She does not have the authority to terminate her pregnancy at whatever time, in whatever way, and for whatever reason she alone chooses. With this, we do not agree. That's Roe v. Wade, line 153. That's Harry Blackmun, the author of Roe v. Wade. He denies women the right to choose. Now, many of you have heard me talk about this, and you've heard me point out that most honest abortion advocates who know the law agree with what I just said. Women were not given the right to choose. He just said it. Women have been the indirect object, historically, in America's abortion industry. I used to stand in front of abortion clinics many years ago, and we would stand, a young woman and I, praying. And that young woman, when someone came up, usually it was a couple, she would talk to the woman coming for the abortion, and I would talk to whoever was escorting her. Sometimes it was actually her parents. They felt this was the best thing. Very often the woman was weeping, and the young woman with me, Karen, would very wisely, and again, having been in prayer, try to reach her. But that other person did not want that happening. I would try to speak with them. And if it was a boyfriend, this happened more than once. I was punched because he sure as heck was going to ensure this abortion would take place. The decision-making in an abortion is ultimately that of the abortionist and those who are accommodating the abortionist. The woman is the indirect object of the action. The object of the verb abort is in fact a human baby. If that has not taken place, it's not an abortion. By the way, I also know a woman who told me very frankly that when she thought she might have been impregnated, she had somebody, a doctor she would go to have it dealt with. And she told me that she would just go in for the abortion, and she didn't even know if she was pregnant or not. The abortionist gladly accommodated, and that's called a D&C, dilation and curettage. It's very, very common by an OBG. And if there is a baby, now it's an abortion. But if it's not a baby, it's simply a DNC. She didn't care. She simply wanted to be unpregnant. If you understand what happened in Russia under Marxism, abortions were so common, the average Russian woman had 8 abortions. I don't know if you knew that. Extremely common. And it's because that was just routinely done. We'll just go out and we'll scrape out the uterus and we've done this job. Next, next, next. But it's only truly an abortion if the woman is actually pregnant, because that is the goal of an abortion. A DNC is not an abortion. You need to understand that. We're going to come back in just a little bit and go more deeply into this important topic.
Life Matters continues after this.
Are you willing to step up to be a lifeguard? We're asking you to consider becoming a Life Matters lifeguard. On Life Matters, we cut to the depths of this cultural battle of ideas that has robbed America of its core values and robbed the innocent of their right to life. Anything you can pledge is appreciated. But if you pledge $19 a month, we will make you part of the Life Matters lifeguard team, getting you the important tools and dynamic information to help save lives and encourage others in understanding the lurking dangers in today's deadly cross-currents of culture. Your pledge helps us with our costs of broadcast. It keeps the full understanding of the right to life going out over our numerous radio stations and also facilitates the important podcast that carries even more programming. Please go to the front page of the Life Matters website and click on the donate button. Your donation is deeply appreciated.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We've been talking about language because language is how ideas are communicated. It's the language that's being fought over. So the casual way language is used can mislead you because many actions are taken for people who want to be unpregnant. That doesn't mean it's an abortion. So there's many things where someone doesn't want to be pregnant. But unless it's actually specifically, objectively killing a human baby, that's not an abortion. And it's important for you to understand that. Because if you want to punish someone for simply wanting to not be pregnant, well, you're still not understanding language. That's their language. Pregnancy is a condition. The unborn child is a unique human being. So this isn't about pregnancy. This is about killing a unique human life. And in that process, abortionists view the woman as the indirect object in that goal of an abortion. Why is this important? Because if you go out and want to penalize women just as a matter of course in the law, you're missing the point. Let me give you a couple of examples. You have to understand how the law really works. The law is there to teach what is appropriate behavior. The law is a teacher, is what the Apostle Paul said about spiritual laws. The law is designed not to punish you. The law is really designed to help you. So think of laws about anything. Think of what about these young girls that are being brought into the sex trade? Well, they're actually prostitutes. They go out and they've been prostituted. But do we want to punish them? Is that what we should do? Let's arrest them and punish them. Or should we instead find out who is the perpetrator? Who is the actual perp that needs to be punished? We want to help those young women. Or think of this. Think of the whole issue of truancy laws. Is the purpose of a truancy law to lock up kids? Hey, kid, you're doing a bad thing. That's against the law. You didn't go to school. We're going to punish you. No, that's not the purpose of the law, to punish. It's to help them. If there should be any penalty, really, shouldn't it go to the parent who has abandoned the responsibility to the child? Please understand the nature of the law. Please understand the nature of legal abortion under Roe v. Wade. The purpose of the abortion is explicit. Kill that human baby. Now, yes, the mother may have had a consultation with the abortionist. I could tell you many stories, and I hope you've heard them, of young women that got the consultation. They're on the table, and then they feel so uncomfortable, they have to just get up and leave. It takes incredible guts They have to go against the immediacy of peer pressure. Sometimes the abortionist will say, hey, please, this girl's resisting. Can you please hold her down? That's happened. And if it's the parents, I know of a young woman whose parents held her down because she did not want that. But it happened. She got a consultation, right? But is consultation the same as agency? The crime in abortion is the killing of a human being. The woman is an indirect object in that process. That is stated even in Roe v. Wade. Women do not have the right to choose to do whatever they want. Let me read again from Roe v. Wade. Please listen to the language. It's designed to trick you. But if you understand the English language and think about it, you'll cut through the fog of deceit. At page 163, quote, the attending physician, in consultation with his patient. You know what consultation means now. The attending physician, in consultation with his patient, is free to determine without regulation by the state that in his medical judgment, the patient's pregnancy should be terminated. If that decision is reached by the doctor, the judgment may be effectuated by an abortion free of interference by the state. So the state has no voice in the killing. It has no authority. The authority is entirely in the hands of the doctor. Again, that's in Roe v. Wade, 410, U.S. 163. Look it up. The word consultation does not give authority to that young woman. Talk to women who got the consultation. And I know women who literally, as the abortion was about to begin, leapt up and they ran like a bat out of hell. Because you know what? They were in hell. They understood they were in a hell designed to kill human beings. The doctor was perfectly legitimate in what he was about to do. She didn't want it, really. The consultation does not actually grant agency. I'm going to read one more time from Roe v. Wade. The decision vindicates the right of the physician to administer medical treatment according to his professional judgment. The abortion decision, in all its aspects, is inherently and primarily a medical decision. And basic responsibility for it must rest with the physician, close quote. That's Roe v. Wade at 166. Roe does not give women the authority. It only gives doctors the authority. You must make sure that the law deals with the perpetrators, not the second victim. And that's what really a woman ultimately is. And there's many people that you know that are wearing those shoes. So please don't try to prosecute women. Make sure we prosecute the perpetrator.
Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.